So what we'll be talking about is applying for college, the financial aid, some resources on campus that can be helpful for you and your child, but also what it will look like once once your child graduates college. What kind of career opportunities can they access? And so I'll be talking about those resources too. Next slide. So I thought I would put this in the chat. So I encourage you all to put the answers you think what the right answer is in the chat. So the question is, because we're talking about school, so of course I'm going to ask you a question and just to see where you're at. But which requirement is not a criteria for admissions to UNR? Is it A, high school diploma, B, 3.0 GPA, C, social security number, or D, having English, math, natural science, and social studies courses? What do you think it is? Is it A, B, C, or D? And this is just to get us warmed up into our discussion. I'll give you a couple more seconds to see if anyone's courageous enough to try to answer the question. C. Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. So let's see. Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't do the fancy thing that I put in. Can you go back?
Yeah.
The technology is not on our side this time, but that's okay. The answer is C. So you do not need to have a social security number or any type of legal immigration status to attend any university or college in the state of Nevada. All you need to have is a high school diploma, a 3.0 GPA, and you have to complete a certain amount of English, math, natural science, and social studies classes. Any student can get into any university or college in Nevada based on the work and the grades that they have. Now, it will look different if your child decides to go to a community college and transfers to a university, but know that I also provide that expertise and can give students that insight on what that will look like to start at a community college and go to a university. A little bit of a background of kind of who I am. I am a daughter of immigrant parents, and so I was the first person in my entire family to graduate high school and then go to college. And I didn't know what resources were available to me, so I decided to go to community college, even though I was accepted to UNR. But I wish someone was able to provide me the information that I hope to provide you all, so you guys can make a decision that works best for you and your family and also your student too. Next slide. And then take it away, Evelyn.
All right, let's see. All right, so applying to the University of Nevada, Reno. So there's just a few things that we want you guys to be aware of. So, of course, college deadlines, be aware of those. Don't forget to complete the ACT/SAT and AccuPlacer. You do not need to have a social security number to apply to any university and or college in Nevada. So just how Jahahi mentioned, this does vary by state, obviously, but luckily in Nevada, you do not need that social security. Don't forget to ask questions throughout the process of applying to college. So, asking those questions will help you stay in the loop and not miss those deadlines, and also remember important dates. So if you look to your right-hand side, you'll see those there. University of Nevada, Reno, important dates. I think it's important to pay attention to the scholarship priority consideration deadline. So that one is February 1st, 2021, so of next year. So yeah, those are just some important dates. I don't know, Jahi, if you have anything else to add to this slide.
Yes. So there's always a lot of confusion about the ACT or the SAT and the AccuPlacer. No, you do not need to have an ACT or SAT score to be admitted to the university. It's not a requirement, but it will allow us to know where your child or your student is placed in their understanding with math and English. But there are other ways to go about and learning that too. And so if you have any questions or concerns about that, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be happy to explore that with you. But yes, I'm going to emphasize again, the most important date out of all the dates, well, they're all really important, but the most important that I know parents really care about is the financial aid, right? So important so that you complete all scholarship applications before the first February 1st, 2021. I always tell my students, turn it in before the last week of January because we want to make sure that you get all the documentation that you need. And I'll explain more about the admission process and the applications for scholarship for students who are undocumented and also students who are US citizens and need to apply for FAFSA. Next slide.
All right, so now when we transition a little bit more to the financial aid stuff, so there's the free application for student aid, or for short and better known as FAFSA. So in order to be able to apply for FAFSA, you have to meet the following criteria. So be a US citizens, naturalized citizens, and legal permanent residents. So yeah, in order to qualify, you need to meet those requisites right there. But on the other hand, we also have the institutional methodology scholarship. So that is for non-FAFSA eligible students. So if you meet the criteria below, which is undocumented students, DACA recipients, or international students, this is the scholarship for you. Yeah, Jahi, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Yes, one thing with the FAFSA. Now, for students who are legal permanent residents, even it doesn't matter how long they have been legal permanent residents, they can still apply for FAFSA. It's not the same as other public benefit programs. So if your child just became a legal permanent resident, they can qualify for FAFSA. And if you have any concerns with that, this is why I'm here on this campus to assist you. But I just wanted to make sure that people understand that we encourage legal permanent residents to apply for FAFSA. And also, if you have another child or your child is a US citizen and maybe you don't have a social security number, your child can still apply for FAFSA even though parents do not have a social security number. Next slide. Okay, let's talk about the good stuff, right? The money part, the thing that's so the most important for families, important for me when I first started school. So again, it shows that you all are interested in helping your students and your family by understanding the different scholarship opportunities on this campus. So I want to just applaud that you all are here this evening just to learn more. So I'll be talking each of these little squares about what it will look like for students to access these scholarships. So for students who are US citizens or legal permanent residents, they can apply for FAFSA. And once that application is completed and sent to the Department of Education, is also sent to the University of Nevada, Reno. So what that means is that once they complete the FAFSA, they may be eligible for merit-based scholarship, which basically means depending on your student's GPA, SAT or ACT score, or other criteria, they may be eligible to receive more money, like the Wolfpack Pride, the other scholarships that I am totally forgetting their names. But that's why it's so important to fill out your FAFSA or the institutional methodology for non-FAFSA eligible students before the 1st of February to make sure that they have access to those scholarships. So the other one is called the Access Grant. Once you complete the institutional methodology or the FAFSA, depending on the family's income, then they may have access to the Access Grants, money within our institution that we set aside to give families to pay for school and other academic related things like textbooks and such. And again, it's available, as you can see, for those who are FAFSA eligible and also non-FAFSA eligible. So the other scholarship is the Millennium Scholarship. I always get stuck with that name. But the Millennium Scholarship is available for those students who are, again, FAFSA eligible and non-FAFSA eligible. You do not have to complete any type of application in order to qualify for the Millennium Scholarship. I'll explain that in the next few slides. But moving on, the Nevada Guarantee is a last minute money. So essentially what that means is that the financial aid office will make sure that students qualify for the other 3 scholarships that I mentioned earlier first, and then whatever doesn't cover their tuition, if the student qualifies for the Nevada Guarantee will pay for the remaining tuition. And this is only for those who are Nevada residents. So most of you all, since you know, we're watching through this, the Washington County School District, your child is a Nevada resident, therefore they may qualify for the Nevada Guarantee. And so that is a scholarship that has helped a lot of US FAFSA eligible students, and also my non-FAFSA eligible students, like students who are undocumented, students with DACA. And so I want to make sure that you all know that there is financial aid for students who have FAFSA, and but also students who are undocumented and students with DACA too. And then we have work study, which is available through FAFSA, because there is some money that the federal government will give to the schools for those who qualify for FAFSA through work study. But our university works really hard to support students who are students with DACA, and therefore what they did is get set aside some money to do work study. So basically, what work study is that the university sets aside a certain amount of money and will encourage departments at the university to hire students, and then they get paid. So essentially, students will get basically will get a job and also get paid through those funds. But I also want to highlight that work study is only available for students who have legal authorization to work in the United States. So students who were born in the US, they have the opportunity for work study. But students with DACA, they can do work study because they have the legal authorization to work in the US. So not all undocumented students qualify for work study. And so there's a part in the application of the institutional methodology that will ask if a student is able to work in the US. And again, I am more than happy to fill that form out with any of you or your students too. The other option is private loans, which is super scary for a lot of parents. And I do have to say it can be a bit scary. But I still want to highlight that through FAFSA, so students who are US citizens and legal permanent residents can apply for subsidized loans through the Department of Education. So they have special programs, or they won't charge interest, and they won't ask for payments until 6 months after the student graduates. And so those private loans are also through banks as well, and that's what I mean by private loans mostly. But there are loans for students who are undocumented and students with DACA. Now those private loans are not through the federal government, but through private banks. We fortunately have a wonderful person in the financial aid office who specializes in loans. And so what we offer for students is we educate them on what a loan is, what it will look like, what are the interests, and also we help students create a budget in order to ensure that they don't fall behind in their loans. And again, if you have any more questions about loans, I'll connect you to that wonderful person that I'm talking about. So the other two, they're external scholarships. So there are other scholarships outside of the university that students can apply for. You just got to be super careful about what the criteria they're asking. A lot of scholarships will ask that you're a US citizen or legal permanent resident, or that you fill out FAFSA in order to qualify for scholarships. But there is scholarships for students who are undocumented, students with DACA, and the best place to find that information, and I'm going to put it in the chat, if you download the app called Dreamers Roadmap. Um, that is the app that you can download on your iPhone or your Android phone. And all the all the scholarships listed in that app is available for students who do not have a social security number or US citizenship. So really it takes the student and you all have to take the initiative in finding their scholarships. But again, the university is here and open to support you too. So just let us know how we could help you with that. And then the last one, we do have payment plans. Most students well, let me go back. All students are eligible for the 3-month payment plan. Sometimes there are extended payment plans for certain situations and cases. It doesn't happen often, but if in a situation where the 3-month payment plan is just too difficult for a family to manage, because of their circumstances, just contact me and I'm able to advocate and possibly give you an extended payment plan. It just really depends case by case, but I'm more than happy to answer any of those questions if you are in that situation. Next slide. Thank you. Okay, so the Nevada Guarantee Grant. Nevada Guarantee Grant. Okay, yes, I read that right. It's state funded. And what does it provide? So it's eligible for students who are promised gift aid to cover registration, mandatory fees up to 15 credits for each semester, 4 years, not years. That was a typo. As long as they meet satisfactory academic progress. So basically, what that means is that students are guaranteed some gift aid, some money, if they continue to be enrolled in 15 credits, and with a pathway in graduating 4 years, and need to have a certain GPA, and I believe the GPA is a 2.75 in order to continue to qualify to receive this grant. But also know, the university is also understanding that not all students are able to be enrolled in 15 credits. So sometimes there's some waiver forms I'm happy to assist students with. So if 12 credits is much more manageable, maybe because they're working full time, then there are waivers and opportunities where students don't have to be enrolled in 15 credits to receive the financial aid. But again, this is where you need to, connect with me, and I'm more than happy to assist you. So to qualify, like I mentioned earlier, you have to be a Nevada resident to admitted to UNR. Any student who graduated from a Nevada high school gets in-state tuition, and therefore they are Nevada residents through tuition purposes. So if your student is graduating from Nevada high school this year or in the next couple of years, then they qualify for this grant if we continue to have the funding for it. You have to be a full-time student, 12 to 50 credits. The family income has to be of 50,000 or less to qualify, and you do need to fill out the FAFSA or the institutional methodology. And again, there's just another emphasis, you have to maintain financial aid, satisfactory academic progress, which is a fancy way to say you have to have a 2.75 GPA. So again, you need to complete the FAFSA or the institutional methodology. Again, before the 1st of February. It's so important that you do that, because if you do it on the 2nd of February, you turn everything in on the 2nd of February, then you may not qualify to receive additional money that a lot of students get, that it does help them. So the application for FAFSA and institutional methodology opened on October 1st. So now is the time to apply. The sooner the better. That's what I always say. And I always tell students to, once they do apply for the university, they'll have like their own online account, and we call it My Nevada account, and they will have a to-do list I'm seeing on the right side of the screen, because that's how I always see it. And they will say, complete these financial aid forms. And again, what I also provide too is guidance to the whole admissions process. And we have a wonderful team of people at the university who can help you and your student in understanding what things you need to complete. And the best part is that a lot of the workers and the employees at the university are understanding of the needs of students who are undocumented or parents who are undocumented too. So you'll get the help even beyond me. Next slide. So the Millennium Scholarship now has a longer name, but I just call it the Millennium Scholarship. It's state funded, so that means students who are undocumented can access the Millennium Scholarship. So again, you don't have to apply for FAFSA or institutional methodology. You just need to have a 3.25 GPA or an SAT score of, it says it right there, so go ahead and read it. But you also have to have 4 years of English, 4 years of math, 3 years of social sciences, and 3 years of natural science. If you're unaware if your student qualifies for the Millennium Scholarship, I encourage you to speak with your high school counselor to see if your child or your student is eligible to receive the Millennium Scholarship. It's important to know that you have to be a Nevada resident for at least 2 years and graduate from Nevada high school. Okay. And then again, like I said, anyone who graduates from Nevada high school generally are Nevada residents through tuition purposes in the state of Nevada. You do not need to apply. So you will get a packet or like a letter sometime in August or in July. And the letter will basically say, congratulations, you qualify the Millennium Scholarship, meaning they'll give you what is it called? Like an ID. And you go online at the Nevada Treasurer's website, and they'll have more of this information on the packet, but I want you to all to know. Um, so once you do that, you accept, you click all the things that says I agree to accept this award. And I'm providing you a little bit more information of what it will look like, because I've had students who are undocumented, students with DACA, who who received the Millennium Scholarship but didn't know what to do with the letter. They thought that once they received the letter, that was the only thing they need to do, but you actually need to accept the award, the Millennium Scholarship, online. So again, make sure to speak with a high school counselor to see if your student qualifies for a Millennium Scholarship. And it's important to know, once you go online and you do accept the award, there's a part in accepting the award saying that if you are not, if you don't have legal immigration status, by accepting this award, you are promising that in the future there is an opportunity for you to change your immigration status to a legal permanent status or legal immigration status, that you will complete those tasks. And most students do. And again, if there's any fears or questions about that, I've done it with a lot of students. I'm more than happy to answer those specific questions. Um, so a lot of students and families think that once you get the Millennium Scholarship, you get $10,000. It's not necessarily how it works. It depending on what community college your student goes to, or state college or university. I kind of break it down at how much money the student will get per credit, depending on the university or college they go to. But for the university, on average, for one semester, for students will get about $980 to $1,000 through the Millennium Scholarship, which does really help. And so it's important to know that your student is able to receive the Millennium Scholarship within the first 6 years after graduating high school. For an example, if a student graduated this June 2020, they have until June 2026 to use that award. So basically means to be enrolled at a university or college in the state of Nevada, and make sure that they continue to meet the eligibility criteria. What I didn't put on this slide is that students do need to have a certain GPA and need to be enrolled in a certain amount of credits per college. And that looks different for every college. And so I do apologize if I don't provide that information on here. But again, I am more than happy to, in the future, if you want to set up an appointment, more than happy to give more information about that. Next slide. So let's talk about the first generation mentorship programs. And so as you can see, we have about 4 programs, and we might have more. But from what I know, here are the 4 programs that the are great in serving students who are first generation. So students whose parents never went to college in the United States. So the TRIO program is only limited to US citizens and legal permanent residents only, but the TRIO program provides mentorship and research opportunities for students who are interested in going to graduate school. So getting a master's degree, so being on the 4-year degree to getting another degree, and possibly getting a PhD if that's what your student is interested in. McNair Scholarship Program provides a similar program, but they're actually much more geared into graduate school than I think TRIO does. But again, because those 2 programs are federally funded, so funded through the federal government, it is not available for students who are undocumented or students with DACA. Is only students available to students who are U.S. citizen and legal permanent residents. For those 2 programs, you do have to fill out the FAFSA in order to qualify to receive assistance. But the university, again, understands that not all students have access to all those programs. So we have First in the Pack that's funded through the institution, so money within our own college. And that program is available to US citizens, to legal permanent residents, and also to students who are undocumented and students with DACA. So really any student. The only qualifying criteria, there's a few, but the main one is you have to be a first generation college student, meaning that your parents never went to college here in the United States, and then you qualify to be part of the First in the Pack. So what the First in the Pack provides is mentors, college mentors. So your students who are who are older and have been in college a lot longer. And what they do is help them apply for FAFSA, help them apply for other programs and research projects, but also just provide some companionship. You know, as a first generation student, it was actually really difficult to go to university. I tried to speak to my mom about going to school, and she really couldn't provide me that insight because she didn't have the opportunity to go to college here in the United States. She went to college in El Salvador, but it's a lot different than it is here in the United States. So it's a wonderful program that I encourage you and your students to find more about. And again, I'm more than happy to do that with you. And the last program is the Disability Resource Center Mentor Program. Again, this program is available to all students, like First Impact, whether available to students who are undocumented, students with DACA. So what I love about this program, well, I love all programs, but I think this is a unique program because they pair students with other students with certain disabilities. And no disability is not just physical, it could also be mental, it could be learning disability or any type of disability. The Disability Resource Center provides wonderful wraparound resources and accommodations. So if your student suffers from ADHD or unable to concentrate or has anxiety or depression, know that the university is equipped to support you and your student. Next slide. So career, super important, right? This is why we go to college, so we could get jobs and, and do what we want to do. But we have a wonderful program called Nevada Career Studio. So what they do is help students practice on interviewing, which is something that I wish I would have used when I was in college. But they also help them write a resume. They don't have to graduate in order for them to receive that assistance. If a student is looking for a job right out of high school and needs that assistance and they're enrolled at UNR, then they could get help in writing that resume. They have paid and unpaid internships. So some of the paid internships may not be available for students who are undocumented, but may be available for students with DACA. But they do have unpaid internships that's available to all students. So if your student is interested in social work like me, or is interested in engineering, then there may be some opportunities for them to work in that field to see if that's what they like. And so they also have career networking. So they teach them how to speak to other employers and how to get a job. And then they also provide graduate school assistance. So if a student wants to graduate the 4-year degree, but wants to go to college to get a master's degree, and they also provide that type of support too. But what I really want to talk about is what the information on the left side. In June 2019, the Nevada legislature passed AB 275, which prohibits from state licensing boards from discriminating any applicant who doesn't have a social security number or have a legal immigration status, meaning that if a student, for an example, if a student graduates with a social work degree, and if they're undocumented and have DACA, regardless if they have a social security number, they can become licensed social worker. And that's just one example. This also applies to nursing, engineering, teaching, and accessing those career opportunities. So, so if your student is interested in those fields, it's important to learn about what the licensing will look like afterwards. And that's something that Career Studio can help them. And that's something that I can help them, especially if their student has DACA or student is undocumented too. I simply want you all to know is that if your student is undocumented or you know someone who's undocumented who's interested in a certain career, your immigration status shouldn't stop you from trying to study in that career. I do have to say, having a professional license does not equal a legal opportunity to work in the United States, but there are other avenues where you can work in the field that you study. And that is something that myself and other people in the state of Nevada is trying to explore on how that would look like for someone who can't legally work in the United States. Next slide. So I talk about a lot about resources, and what I really want to highlight and promote is the center every student every story. It's a wonderful physical space, an emotional space, and a social space where students and families can connect with people who share the same cultural background and also identity, immigration status, first generation, you name it. There's diverse groups of people within the center of Every Student, Every Story. This is where my position, where my office is located. And so we have programming for Black students, for Indigenous students, for Latinx, or Latinos. We have services for LGBTQ, so gay, trans students, services there. We have resources for Asian and Pacific Islanders, and we have support for undocumented students. And also know that this space is available for everyone. We do a lot of events where we include every student. And one of the next events that the center is hosting is the Dia de los Muertos. So if you follow them on Facebook, you'll see that they'll have a Dia de los Muertos event where you can see dances de Florico. I think that's what it's called. So you're more than welcome to attend it on Facebook because everything's virtual now. So next slide. So I'm hoping that if you ever do visit the university, you can see that we do have support on our campus. So we have the Nevada Undocumented Ally workshop. So it's a workshop that I teach other faculty members of what it means to support students who are undocumented. And so what once someone completes the workshop, they get the sticker on the left side where you see the butterfly where it says Nevada Undocumented Ally. A person who completed the workshop is aware of the resources for undocumented students. And so if you ever see this sticker throughout the state of Nevada, because it's not just UNR, know that the person is there to support students who are undocumented or students who are from a diverse background. So know that it's just not me at the university talking about immigration. We have a lot of people in our universities to support your student too. Next slide.
Sorry, had to unmute myself. But we also have UndocuPack, and UndocuPack was really created to uplift, but also to advocate on behalf of undocumented, DACA, and overall immigrant students as a whole. So we are on social media, so you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Our Instagram handle is, you can see it there, at UndocuPack, and then for Twitter, it's at PackUndocu. So, great platforms, a lot of information, and I think it provides this just connectedness and helps everyone stay in the loop, and a lot of great information that Jahahi puts forward. So yeah, DocuPack.
Yes, follow us on Instagram. We'll eventually have a Facebook, but we'll get there slowly. Next slide. So again, I just want to emphasize that there's so much support on our campus to support students who are undocumented, students who are first generation college student, really all students. But I really wanted to be specific because this is called the Dreamer's Guide to College, right? And so I just wanted to highlight some support for undocumented DACA and immigrant students, but know that all of these resources are available. But I also want to highlight the legal support at the bottom. No, we don't have an immigration attorney on our campus, but we work really closely with Unili Immigration Clinic. Yes, they're based in Las Vegas, but they still provide services online for people in Reno. But we also have Catholic Charities in Northern Nevada, Planned Immigration Services, Washoe Legal Services, and Tu Casa Latina for those who are victims of crime. So they can help you understand about the different legal opportunities to change immigration status if that is if you're in that situation. Again, because I'm a social worker, I love to connect students and their families to these resources. So never hesitate to email me, even if your student is not admitted to UNR. We are all a community, so we are here to support you too. Next slide. So when I talk about that we are part of this bigger community, I'm not just talking about Reno or Sparks. I'm talking about the entire state of Nevada. So I sit as the co-chair as the NSHE All Access Committee, which is built to support to provide and build support for undocumented DACA students and students of a different immigration background and students from diverse backgrounds too, and advocating and asking for resources specifically for immigrant students. And so you can follow us on Instagram too. That's where we provide other resources. But I simply just want to tell you all that Nevada has a lot of support for students from diverse backgrounds and students who are immigrants. And so don't feel like you're by yourself in all of this. This is why we're here. Next slide. And again, I just want to say we have support throughout the state of Nevada, but I do have to highlight that UNR is the first university, first college in the state of Nevada that designated a faculty member, which is me, to support all students, but support students who are undocumented, students with DACA, and students in mixed status families. And so UNR has been committed for the last 4 years to provide that support, and will continue to be committed to supporting students who are undocumented. And as you know, we're stronger in numbers. So UNLV has Mariana Sarmiento, who's a resource coordinator for, and she's part of the undocumented student program at UNLV. And Truckee Meadows Community College has Grecia, who's an undocumented student advocate, who's amazing as well. And she is also supportive of students who are undocumented over there. So again, if your student is interested in going to TC first, maybe not UNR, or really they don't know where to start, email me or Grecia, and we'll be happy to meet with you and figure that part out of your college journey. Next slide. There is one. Can't remember. And again, this is not applicable for everyone, but know that there are resources if you do have DACA just to renew. And again, I'm more than happy to provide that, but I believe that this presentation and the slides will be available to you. So know that you don't have to copy everything or take screenshots of everything. This resource will be still available, but also reach out to me if any questions. Next slide. Okay, so this is the last slide that I have. I just want to emphasize that aquí estoy yo. I am here to help you and answer any questions that you have. My office is located on the 3rd floor of the Joe Crowley Student Union. We could connect in person if that's easiest for you, through social distancing and wearing a mask. But I'm also available through Zoom and through phone. Whatever is easiest for you, I am there, is what I'm trying to say. So, but you could call me and you can email me. I do speak Spanish, yo hablo español, so if Spanish is easier for you, then I am available. But that is the presentation that I have, and I appreciate you all being patient. But I do want to answer some questions. So let me know if you have any questions about scholarships, about the admission process. You're welcome to put it in the chat. I don't know if people are able to unmute, but you're welcome to put it in the chat too. So I'll give you some time to, if you have any questions, to include it in the chat box. Okay, someone said thank you. No, thank you for being here. I'm happy you learned something tonight. Another chance, any other questions or comments? Yeah.
I'll ask for unmute. So if anybody is just on a phone or has other access, they can possibly unmute and ask a question.
Okay. Alrighty, no pressure in asking a question. Again, my contact is there. Feel free to contact me. Again, your student does not have to be a UNR student if you have a question for me. If I can help you and answer any questions, then I'll be more than happy to connect you with someone who can in the community. But I do appreciate you all for being here and being as active as you possibly can through Zoom.
Thank you all for participating. We do have a survey that will be entered into the chat. We have it in English and Spanish available. If you can take a little bit of your time to click on that in the chat area and then fill out the survey. And thank you for presenting to us about the Dreamers. And also her contact information is there on the screen. If you have any, this will be available later to our families, so that information will be available.
Hello.
Thank
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. So this is just a quick question. First of all, thank you so much, all of you, for the time you have invested in this presentation. And you already told us that they don't need a social security number, but what about an IT number? Is it called? I don't know what it's called. Do they need that?
Yeah. No, they don't need an ITIN number. I mean, having an ITIN number will make it easier for licensing. So if they want to have a professional license in a degree that they're studying, then yes, it's easier to have an ITIN. But just to apply for UNR, you do not need it. So there will be part of the application where it's going to ask for a social security number. Students can leave it blank. It's optional.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'll be contacting you later. Thank you so much, everyone.